It's a question that comes up for me in the work that I do. How to stay calm in a difficult conversation. I've been there. You probably have been too. Maybe it's the neighbor who drives you and every reasonable person crazy at the annual condo association meeting. You want to scream or walk out of the room. But you know neither would help. Or maybe it's the 1000th time you've tried to talk to your aging parents about estate planning and they say, "Don't worry, honey, you're gonna be well taken care of."
Okay, this shouldn't be so hard.
Their one sentence answer enrages you. You're not worried about whether you're gonna be taken care of, and you know that they know that too. They're simply avoiding a hard topic and doing so in a way that makes you feel hurt and dismissed. Or maybe it's the conversation with your supervisor about a promotion that you've tried to raise, but that keeps getting pushed off until things, quote, calm down. A state of existence that will never exist in your frenetic workplace. If these or examples similar to them come up for you, and if you're wondering, what are the 5 important steps I can do to stay calm in a difficult conversation? This video is for you. I'm Bob Bordone, Senior Fellow at Harvard Law School and the founder and former director of Harvard Law School's Negotiation and Mediation Clinic. I'm also the founder and principal at the Cambridge Negotiation Institute, and I spend lots of my time writing about, coaching, and consulting on difficult conversations. So, first, prepare in advance.
Here's what you do.
Okay, I know this advice probably sounds pretty trite. I mean, who doesn't prepare in advance of a difficult conversation?
I am sure that you do.
Well, I hate to say it, but my experience is that most people don't prepare in advance at all. And they have elaborate reasons for doing so, like, I was too busy, or what's the point? It's hopeless anyway. Or you really can't prepare for one of these things. I mean, they're so darn unpredictable. But even for those who want to prepare, often the prep that they do isn't all that helpful. Instead of a systematic or thoughtful preparation, they end up simply spinning around various nightmare versions of how the conversation's gonna go.
It says fold it in!
Or they'll avoid prep on the grounds that the conversation is gonna be bad enough. Why am I gonna put myself through more misery by thinking it through in advance? Truth is though, thinking it through in a careful way actually increases the chances that you will stay calm and you will be ready in those moments when you might otherwise want to escalate or run for the hills. So, when it comes to prep, here are some preparation tips. First, write down some of the things that the other person might say or do that would cause you to lose your cool. And when I say write them out, I actually mean write them out. Then, for each of these, think about what can I say or do in that moment that would be productive, non-escalatory, but also non-avoidant. Second, conduct an emotions audit. So what is an emotions audit? Well, write down the full list of emotions that this conversation brings up for you. Once you do this, consider the following. Which of these emotions might be worth sharing in the conversation? And then consider, can I share them without making an attribution about the other party and without making an attack or assuming that they intended that I should have these emotions? Second, for those emotions you might think are less productive or not worth sharing, spend some time embracing the feeling and asking yourself, how can I acknowledge the emotion in the moment to myself and not let it produce a negative behavioral response during the difficult conversation? One of the biggest mistakes people make is rather than acknowledge the emotion that they feel they shouldn't be having, they try to deny it or swallow it or say the emotion isn't there. This does not help us if we want to stay calm in a difficult conversation.
I've been gutted!
Why? Because if you're feeling or having an emotion, pretending you are not feeling it or not having it will not make it better. Research shows that emotions leak out. In fact, Paul Ekman, who has done amazing research on emotion detection, has shown that when people lie about facts, the person on the other side can detect that lie about 50% of the time. But when people lie about emotions, the person on the other side can detect it as a lie about 90% of the time. So if you can't hide emotions from the other side, you're going to have a lot of trouble hiding an emotion from yourself. So part of the preparation of embracing the emotion is to just stay away from evaluation. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. The real way to stay calm in a conversation is to let yourself have and feel the emotion without letting it take you over so that you lose your cool or say something you'll end up regretting. Next, consider who would handle this conversation with skill. Lots of times when I'm working with a client who's trying to learn how to stay calm in the midst of a really hard conversation, they are completely stumped when I ask them a question like, well, how could you express this emotion well? Or how would you respond to this triggering statement with skill and with calm? So then what I'll say to them, I'll say, okay, so like who's someone in your life who do you think would handle this well? And they'll be like, what do you mean? I'll be like, so is there someone you know, like a friend, a family member, a mentor, like a movie star, like someone who you think would handle this conversation with skill? And almost always they'll have some answer. They'll be like, yeah. They'll be like, like I think my friend Noah, or like maybe my cousin Talisha, or like maybe my second grade teacher. Great, I'll say. What I want you to do is pretend you are Talisha. And I want you to write out exactly what Talisha would do in this situation. Suddenly, they come up with all of these skillful ways of handling the difficult conversation. And so then I say to them like, okay, so you know what? You know exactly what to say. The challenge is why it's hard for you to do that as yourself. So this part of the prep might sound a little bit like self-therapy, but it actually can be very helpful because what we've discovered is you know what to say, but there's some reason why you can't produce that in the moment. And so spending the time thinking about what those barriers are and then strategies for addressing the barriers, that's going to help you actually do the right thing in the difficult conversation.
Yes.
Fourth, once you're in that conversation, set some ground rules for it. You'll have done a lot of prep and you'll be ready to go, but the other side is not going to know what's happening and they're going to need some context. So don't just barrel headlong into the conversation. Instead, be direct, first, just in your interest in having a difficult conversation. Ask them, is this a good time? If it isn't a good time, ask to find a time that actually works for the other person. Second, you might say, because this is difficult and because you want to share some hard thoughts, you want to make sure that you get some time to express yourself, but also that they get some time to express themselves and feel heard too. So suggesting a chance for each side to explain their perspective, and then at each side to ask some clarifying questions can be really helpful. You might also agree before you get started that if things get challenging or rough, that each side can just say, can we take a little bit of time to collect ourselves? Of course, the ground rules or shared norms you come up with are going to depend on the context. You might not always need all of these, but in situations where you feel like there's a chance you will lose your cool, having ground rules can reduce the likelihood that this will happen and helps you or the other person remind each other of the norms you agreed to at the beginning. Finally, throughout the conversation, prioritize listening. One of the best ways to stay calm in a difficult conversation is to have listening as one of your most important goals. And when I say listening, let me be clear. I'm not saying agreeing with them or just being nice. What I mean is making the other side feel heard, asking open-ended questions, and trying to acknowledge the emotion you hear from them, even if you don't agree with a word they're saying.
A toast!
Now you might be thinking like, why does listening help? What I mean instead is making the other side feel heard, asking open-ended questions, and trying to acknowledge the emotion you hear from them, even if you don't agree with the word they are saying. So why does listening help? Well, first, it gets them talking more. And the more they're talking, the more you learn about them, why they feel the way they do, how they see the situation, where their mind is at. And the more you know about this, the more able you are to be tailored and accurate in any response you give. Second, listening can make the other side feel heard. And there's a whole host of research that shows when parties feel heard, they actually reciprocate that feeling with a willingness to listen to you. Raising your voice in the face of their raised voices does not promote calmness. As pretty much everyone in my field says, we are given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Third, when you are doing a good job listening, you actually are staying calm. Listening often slows the pace of the conversation. And the better you are at asking open-ended questions, the more you can understand and appreciate the other's perspective. And the more you can do that, the greater chance you can actually stay calm in this difficult conversation. I have seen the power of listening in so many challenging conversations. So, here are my tips for staying calm. First, take the time to prepare for the difficult conversation. An early investment in this can actually have big efficiencies in the long run. Second, consider the full range of strong feelings that might come up for you in the conversation. Which are worth sharing, and how could you share them without making attributions of intentionality? For those you choose not to share, don't deny or minimize the feeling, let yourself feel it, but have a strategy for handling it when it comes up. Third, if you feel stuck about the exact words to say, envision someone in your life who would handle the same conversation well. Then imagine you are they in the conversation and try to channel that person as much as you can. Fourth, if the particular conversation warrants, agree to some ground rules up front about how you'll engage with each other that give everyone a chance to speak, to listen, to clarify, and that allow for people to take breaks to rebalance themselves. Fifth, whenever you feel the urge to either fight or run for the hills, consider active listening. Whenever you do that, it increases the likelihood that the other side will listen to you. And let me add one more point here. This formula is helpful, but it won't always work. So before I go into any difficult conversation, I always want to plan a graceful exit strategy, an emergency ripcord, just in case I feel myself getting out of control. You should do the same. Some graceful exits might be, I so appreciate the conversation we've had to this point. I'm also feeling that we may each have more to say, but taking time to reflect and continue would make some sense to me. Can we plan on this for another time?
I know, but look at me.
There's research that shows that when we are emotionally triggered, our brains release a whole bunch of chemicals. They include adrenaline and cortisol. We can feel these physical effects a lot. For example, we might get sweaty palms or we might suddenly go cold. And these are real physical reactions, like we should not ignore them. But this strong emotional response, it's called a refractory period in my field. And this period can last anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes after we are triggered. And every time the other party says something that triggers us again, the refractory period gets renewed. So when I'm in a difficult conversation with someone who is a colleague or someone been part of one of my trainings, right, I can just say, I'm feeling I'm in my refractory period right now. I want to be authentic, real, and productive. Can we take a break and come back when I'm in a better place to engage productively with you? Having a difficult conversation takes courage, but when it's done with skill, it can help you heal wounds, solve problems, build relationships. Even if it doesn't result in a reconciliation, a well-executed difficult conversation gives you the information you need about whether to continue to invest time and energy in a particular project or a job or a relationship. If you want to learn more about difficult conversations, or if you or your organization would like training, coaching, or consulting in this area, reach out to me at bobbordone.com or at the Cambridge Negotiation Institute. And no matter what, keep watching. Click the next video.